Only words on a page, but these words have the potential to bring the government to its knees or to embarrass the opposition. And there's one thing we know for certain: someone or some group wrote these messages. The question is who? But the answer to that question is not easy to find. We're talking about tracing the contents of a hard copy document through the vast universe that is the internet. And let's be honest, only a qualified minority of us understand anything about the inner workings of the web. It's May 30th, and the lower house gathers to debate a motion of no confidence in the Prime Minister and her government. Opposition leader Dr. Keith Rowley leads the debate. He comes prepared with a document which he says was sent to him.
The US contacted me and are effing angry. I thought you had a hold on this. This will cause major backlash. They even threatened to blacklist us.
The Parliament and the public are shocked at the statements. In the days to come, the Prime Minister denies that members of her government wrote the messages.
These emails, I want to say categorically, are a total fabrication as far as they implicate my name.
This is in fact a pure and utter fabrication. It is a concoction and it is an imagination.
Fast forward to 6 weeks later. The document is now the center of a police investigation. Are the police capable of solving this mystery? Can they really get to the bottom of who wrote these emails? And to answer those questions, we've gotten some expert help. Chuck Davis teaches ethical hacking and computer forensics at Harrisburg University of Technology. He's worked as a security operations manager for IBM. He's been a senior security architect at a Fortune 500 company, and he has co-authored 2 books on the subject of IT security. Michael Wright teaches courses in information security and information assurance at Harrisburg University of Technology. He creates, evaluates, and implements enterprise security policy. He spent the last 25 years working for companies such as IBM and the Rome Air Force, as well as the United States Navy. Phil Yanov is a technology columnist with the Columbia Business Journal and Greenville Business Magazine. He is also a technology host on National Public Radio in the US. We sent the 9-page document to these men and then spoke to them via Skype. Our questions were about how they would investigate whether these supposed emails are real. And one thing has become very clear: time is running out.
I would say that it would be very difficult to prove that these emails were actually written, or to find that evidence off of a system at this point.
All emails are sent from devices to email servers and vice versa. Our experts tell us that there are a couple places to look. The first is at the devices, the computers, cell phones, tablets, or other machines used by the people in question to send and receive emails.
If a forensic examiner were able to get a hold of the phone or a computer where these messages were potentially sent or received, he or she may be able to pull even deleted documents or drafts from that system. So it's not just a matter of looking through and looking at the files that you can see. A forensics examiner will look at the files that you can't see.
According to Chuck, even when you delete a file from your computer, it still exists on the hard drive in what is known as slack space.
Did we get to that system in time? Because when you delete a file, it still exists on the hard drive, but that hard drive space is made available to write to again. So, let's say you delete your email, and then, tomorrow you create a whole bunch of new email. The space where that email you deleted yesterday is now open to write and save new documents. So we really need to get our hands on those systems as quickly as possible after a reported incident to be sure that we've got the best chance of gaining access to the evidence.
But our experts tell us that in order for the devices to be an effective tool of investigation, all of the machines used to send and receive emails must be investigated, including phones and tablets.
And so they asked me, give me all these devices, and we will copy every single thing. I said, well, wait. You said you were investigating emails in the month of September. So why you want text message now? Why you want BBM message now? Why you want every phone call I received and I sent? Everybody call me, you will, everything on that you will get. Why? Why?
Well, in our country, and something that is important to this, right, the police would immediately have the power to go seize all of that equipment and begin looking for this data. I mean, look for those breadcrumbs, look for examples of this, you know, the ability to do some forensic analysis. I mean, I think you'd want to get all the computers, you'd want to get the backups of those computers because, you know, again, these are several months old. It's possible that maybe somebody deleted them off of a local machine, but they're quite probably on the backup that they did, which is less than a year old.
Which means, in the case of machines used at a company or at work, looking at other computers in the company. Chuck says you're looking for message IDs, unique identifiers used to sort mail. But our experts agree that the investigation has to be led by a person who knows what to search for, where to search for it, and how to search for it.
I'll relate it to, let's say that you are ill and you go into your doctor's office and your doctor thinks that there's something wrong with your heart. And then you say, okay, well, you go home and then you call up your butcher or whatever and say, hey, can you take care of me? He's not an expert at, at heart issues. So the same thing comes with computers. You need an expert in the field, specifically with computer forensics, that knows, what needs to be done.
So can the police truly investigate the matter without the power to seize devices? When we come back, we look at other ways of determining the authenticity of the emails. We've been hearing a lot about the servers abroad, but when we come back, we'll tell you why time is an extremely important factor when it comes to accessing those records.
My expectation was and it still is that the state will use the state's resources in an open and transparent manner to go to the source where an unpolluted record of conversations between these parties could be examined.
Servers are the storage devices used by email providers such as Gmail and Hotmail to manage the millions of messages that we send and receive every day. In the case of these alleged emails, Gmail and Hotmail are the main providers. So we reached out to them to determine if a person's emails can be accessed through the server, even if they've been deleted from personal accounts. We asked 3 simple questions. 1. Does your company store deleted emails? 2. If so, for how long? And 3. What would I have to provide in order to gain access to your company's records of emails sent and received? Both Gmail and Hotmail completely ignored the first 2 questions about how long deleted emails are kept in the servers. Here's Microsoft or Hotmail's response to the 3rd question. At Microsoft, we take the security and privacy of our customers very seriously. We enforce a very strict policy and don't reveal any personal data unless required to by law enforcement. Microsoft requires a warrant before it provides customer content to U.S. law enforcement officials unless there is a risk to life or serious physical injury, in which case the company may disclose content necessary to thwart that emergency. Google or Gmail's response was much more detailed. It says Gmail's records can be accessed through subpoena, court order, or search warrant, each giving a bit more access to the company's server than the other in that order. As to requests from foreign governments, it says, using mutual assistance treaties and other diplomatic and cooperative means, non-U.S. agencies can work through the U.S. Department of Justice to gather evidence for legitimate investigations. Google also answers questions directly from non-U.S. government agencies. On a voluntary basis, we may provide user data in response to valid legal process from non-US government agencies if those requests are consistent with international norms, US law, Google policies, and the law of the requesting country. So if local law enforcement agencies wanted to venture abroad for information from Google or Hotmail, they could. But the question that arises is, are we too late to do so? Our experts tell us that all email service providers store your deleted emails for a period for the purposes of law enforcement or for backup for a systems crash. But when we come back, we'll tell you just how long companies like Microsoft and Google store your deleted emails for. All email service providers store your deleted messages for a period of time. Our sources tell us that the minimum period is usually 30 days and the maximum can be as long as 6 to 9 months. But they guarantee that after 10 months, one is not likely to find deleted mail on the servers. So where does that put the investigation into emails supposedly sent last September? The earliest date in the email chain is September 2nd, 2012. Assuming that there is a window as long as 10 months, that window expired on July 2nd, 2 days ago. But our experts say all cyber activity leaves a trail. Supposing that these are in fact emails, the longer it takes to follow that trail, the harder the trail will be to follow. But there is always a cyber footprint.
I mean, every single computer device, whether it's a router, servers at Google, anything, they have always had the capability of logging information. It's by default. As soon as you search a website, there are logs on various devices out on the internet saying, okay, you at this time, you visited this website. At this time, you sent an email to this email address, things of that nature. The information is out there, but it's just so vast and it covers the global environment. It really comes down to time and resources to investigate the information that's available.
But we're also being told that there are other ways of gathering intelligence in an investigation like this. IT expert Phil Yanov suggests linguistic analysis.
I mean, you know, we all have a certain way that we talk and a certain way that we walk, and particularly when we're not on guard or anything, we just start typing things out, and they tend to look alike a lot. So, you know, there are patterns that can be searched for, and someone could figure out whether it is you or not.
If Phil is right, then the way anyone writes can be compared to the way that they've written in the past. Linguistic analysis is used as an investigative and legal tool in many countries around the world. A professor of linguistics tells us, quote, "Unfortunately, this is not an area of strength in our region. There have been many cases of injustice meted out in our region on the basis of uninformed linguistic opinions and ideas." End quote.
There are plenty of ways to go out and find this if someone has the ability to be inside those email accounts or inside those servers looking for this data.
When we come back, we answer many of the legal questions about this investigation. Are the police the best people to be investigating the matter? And what crime exactly are the police investigating? There is still debate about whether the police service is the right body to investigate the authenticity of the messages.
My position would have been that it really might have been better in the first instance for the authenticity by itself to be investigated by the Integrity Commission, because they have, in some ways, their powers overlap those of the police, but in other ways they have broader powers.
To this point, no one named in the email scandal is a suspect. The Prime Minister and other members of her cabinet have stated their intention to cooperate with the police as they investigate the authenticity of the emails. But the police cannot take much of our IT experts' advice without warrants.
To me, from the first day, I happened to listen to the parliamentary debate when this was going on. And from day one, the primary issue, both primary in terms of substance and primary in terms of time, the primary issue is, are these emails authentic? Until that is established, you haven't really got the first base as far as I'm concerned.
Does the Integrity Commission have the power to investigate a matter of this nature? According to the Integrity in Public Life Act, in carrying out its functions under Section 34, the Commission may require any person in writing to produce within a specified time all books, records, accounts, reports, data stored electronically or otherwise, or any other documents relating to the function of any public or private body. It goes on to state that a person who refuses to disclose such information is liable to imprisonment for 3 years and a fine of $150,000. But there was no Integrity Commission in place at the time that supposed emails were read in Parliament. But our legal sources tell us that the Commission is still free to investigate the matter of the authenticity of the document. However, when it comes to seeking help from outside of Trinidad and Tobago, there needs to be more than an investigation into just authenticity.
Depending on the request would have to be framed, in my view, to ensure that the request is being made in relation to a criminal matter. Because, first of all, the legislation in terms talks about mutual assistance in criminal matters. So if some request is framed that doesn't really put it in a criminal context, one can see the lawyers for the server in the United States saying, well, we don't have to respond to this because you are asking me about something not in pursuance of a criminal investigation.
According to the Mutual Assistance in Criminal Matters Act, on application by the Director of Public Prosecution, a judge or a magistrate may issue a letter of request requesting assistance in obtaining evidence as is specified in the letter of request for use in the investigation or prosecution of an offence. And our legal sources tell us that the offence which ought to be investigated is a possible breach of the Computer Misuse Act, which states, a person who knowingly and without authority uses or causes to be used directly or indirectly a computer or any other device for the purpose of committing an offence commits an offence and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of between $15,000 or imprisonment for 2 years. There are also questions about the handling of evidence. In a case like this, it's something that our experts say shouldn't be taken lightly.
If a laptop or some sort of user device like a tablet or anything like that, if it needs to be confiscated, every step as to who picked it up, how it was carried, what was the process, did they turn it off, did they just unplug it, did they log off the machine, where was it stored, was it locked, any little detail or any every single step of how that device is handled needs to be documented. And then as long as that's done, the computer forensic expert, whatever he finds cannot be disputed because that chain of evidence is maintained from start to finish.
There is also the important matter of ensuring that the right to privacy is observed.
Information is power is a cliche because it is true. And therefore, it would not be right for the policemen, whatever their rank and however trustworthy in terms of their confidentiality, it would not be right for them to see or know that information. Some of it also may not relate to matters of state at all. Some of it may relate to personal things, doctor's appointments or anything of that kind that is private.
The police continue to investigate these alleged emails, but they aren't saying very much about how that investigation is proceeding other than to say that it's proceeding. But what we now know for sure is that unless the police are acting very aggressively and very quickly behind the scenes, what is being investigated here, the authenticity of these emails, will be very hard to prove.